I'm pregnant, dragon and phoenix fetus. My mother-in-law was so excited that she cried like rain. Shouted directly, "Your uncle finally has a future." I slapped myself in the face. "Mom, wake up, what crazy words are you talking about?" The husband explained with a smile. Mom was so excited that I didn't make it clear. It's to let us pass our son to the eldest brother, so that someone will send the eldest brother a farewell. This dogman must not want it. Just let him recognize his eldest brother as his father. 1. Looking at the 2 bars on the test paper, I jumped up happily. My husband held me with a spoiled face. "Honey, be careful. You are the key protection target now." My husband and I have been in love for many years, and now we have the crystallization of love again. I am very grateful to God for his favor. We shared our joy with our families happily. I didn't expect that there was a bigger surprise waiting for us. The ultrasound shows that I am actually pregnant with twins, which is a less likely dragon and phoenix fetus. When my mother-in-law heard the news, she came all night and said she would take care of me. As soon as my mother-in-law entered the door, she stared at my stomach happily and sighed. "Great, great, your uncle finally has a future." I was so quick-eyed that I slapped my mother-in-law's face. "Mom, wake up quickly. Are you stained with something dirty? How to talk nonsense." The mother-in-law's face turned pale and she screamed loudly. "Are you educated? If you beat the elders, you will be struck by lightning." I didn't give in. "If you say that you are innocent, you will be struck by lightning. Can you speak human language at a very old age? My pregnancy has something to do with my eldest brother. The eldest uncle is nearly 40 years old, and he has achieved nothing. He eats, drinks, prostitutes, gambles and smokes and has all 5 poisons. That I'm afraid that my eyes will go blind even if I look at this kind of rotten person. Your heart is dirty, and everything you look dirty. My mother-in-law doesn't think she is at fault at all. Yes, your heart is clean. What should you do when you gave birth to a child? Is it the second uncle who has a queen, or the third uncle who has a queen? Can't tell me." My mother-in-law rolled her eyes angrily. He sat on the ground, patted his thighs and began to cry. "My old man, why don't you come and take me away? I worked hard." He pulled his son up, married a wife and had a son, but married in such a thing. Not to mention beating the elders, he also slandered me. I really have no face to live. The only thing that can defeat magic is magic. I opened the door, knelt directly in front of my mother-in-law and began to cry. "I'm a mother-in-law. Although I haven't eaten a mouthful of your family's food or drunk a mouthful of water, you are also my husband's mother. I respect you as an elder. Why do you bully me like this?" The red-mouthed and white-toothed people began to spread rumors. If I don't make it clear today, I can only ask the policeman for help. The neighbor across the door came out to find out when he heard the sound. "What's wrong with you, Meng Meng?" The husband, who had been dead for a long time, suddenly resurrected and rushed to the door with an arrow step. He smiled at the neighbor and took the door. My husband helped me up and persuaded me. "Meng Meng, my mother is old. She is happy and confused for a moment. If you say something wrong, don't care." The mother-in-law immediately turned to the mouth of the wooden warehouse and began to scold her husband. "You unfilial thing, you forgot your mother when you married a daughter-in-law. If only I had known why I had to give birth to something like you," the husband said in a strange tone. "Mom, didn't you teach me that I can't eat hot tofu in a hurry since I was a child? Yo, there is something to say in this." When my mother-in-law heard the words, she got up numbly and said to me with a shy face, "Meng Meng, my mother is old." She was so excited that she was bald just now. "Don't care about it. Don't be angry. You don't have to be ordinary now. You must take care of yourself." As my mother-in-law said, she looked at my stomach eagerly. Point 2. My mother-in-law stayed under the banner of taking care of me. In fact, I don't want to. There are part-time workers at home, and I don't need my mother-in-law at all. But my husband begged me pitifully. "Good wife, I haven't lived with my mother for a long time. Just let her live for a while. I promise that I will send her back later. I don't understand why my mother-in-law is willing to abandon her big son and live in my house. You should know that the uncle is my mother-in-law's sweetheart, and I can't leave him." In contrast, the husband is more like a pickup. So my husband has an unusual desire for maternal love. I had to endure the unhappy and give my husband a face. My husband and I got married, and the house and car were all given by my parents, and my mother-in-law didn't pay the coins. Therefore, I am not polite to my mother-in-law's demonization. The mother-in-law brought a bowl of soup with an eager face. "Meng Meng, Mom made it for you by yourself. Drink while it's hot. The 2 children need double nutrition." I looked at my mother-in-law's old face with a smile, and I was a little flustered. This is not like my mother-in-law's style. If you have nothing to do, you should be diligent. If you are not a traitor or a thief, this soup won't be poisonous, will it? I suddenly wanted to drink water in the middle of the night, but found that my husband was not in the bedroom. I went out curiously and saw that the light was still on in my mother-in-law's bedroom. I walked over and heard my mother whispering, "Mom, you are too anxious. What if you come up like this? What if Ming Ming is scared? The mother-in-law hit her husband impatiently. You have no conscience. If it weren't for your eldest brother, how would you have a good life now? You have a wife and children. Your eldest brother is still alone. How can you bear it? My mother-in-law cried as she said. The husband said with an adoring face, Don't worry, I won't ignore my eldest brother. The mother-in-law said, Don't play with me. I tell you, the boy in the dragon and phoenix womb must be passed on to your eldest brother. As long as your brother has someone to take care of you, I will die. The husband looked hesitant. There is no problem on my side, but I'm afraid Ming Ming won't agree. The mother-in-law scolded viciously. You are a useless thing, even a woman can't control it. A man is the god of the family. As long as you agree, the matter will be decided. Can she still turn the world upside down? I sneered. No wonder my mother-in-law didn't leave. Turned out to be such an idea. If my husband doesn't take my side, I don't mind going to my father to take care of my son. My mother-in-law's idea is like this, and I'm not in danger for the time being. I pretended not to know and went back to the bedroom. 3. My mother-in-law has been particularly good to her husband recently. She almost opened her mouth for clothes and reached for food. My husband was moved to tears. I heard from my husband that my mother-in-law almost lost her life because of heavy bleeding when she gave birth to him, so she has never had a good face for her husband. My husband said that since he was a child, he envied that his uncle could be spoiled in his mother-in-law's arms. Now the mother's love I have longed for many years has been rekindled, and my husband's beauty is about to fly. Looking at my husband's worthless appearance, I think he is not far away from defecting. After breaking my mother-in-law's conspiracy last time, I paid special attention to the surveillance at home. Soon I found that my husband's attitude, which was not very determined, was getting more and more swaying. The mother-in-law took advantage of the victory to chase and used a killer move. Xiao Air, do you remember who fished you out of the cold and piercing river at the beginning? If it hadn't been for your brother's life to save you, how could you have the blessing to marry a wife in the city and live in such a good house? Don't forget to dig wells when drinking water, and you can't be without conscience. The husband gritted his teeth and stamped his feet and agreed. Mom, you're right. The eldest brother is very grateful to me. The child can be reborn, but the eldest brother has only one. The mother-in-law, who achieved her goal, began to provoke the general. Are you sure you have the final say? It's not bragging, is it? Don't make me, an old woman, happy in my void. The husband's neck stiffened. Ming Ming is kind and loves me. If I say it well, she will definitely agree. I love you, Mom. I raised my middle finger at my husband in my mobile phone. After the husband promised his mother-in-law, he began to act. He is more attentive to me than the large inner and small eunuchs. He also tried to brainwash me. Between the words, I can't forget how good my uncle is to him. Without the big brother, there would be no his today blah blah blah. I didn't know that I thought he was born by my mother-in-law and uncle together. It's different if you add the filter of family affection. He probably forgot who told me back then. My uncle has lost all the money in the family, and he survived by eating pig food for a month. It was hard to pick up the rags of tuition, but it was snatched by my uncle and sent it to the casino. I tried to stop it, but I was beaten and didn't get up for half a month. My husband thought he was almost ready and began to try to convince me. He said with tears in his eyes. When I fell into the river, the eldest brother risked his life to jump in and rescue me. The eldest brother has been sick for a long time, and I feel very heartbroken when I think about it. If it weren't for the eldest brother, how could I meet you and how could I have our children? So, round up, you want to involve my child and your brother? Are you sure that everything you have now is given to you by your elder brother? Facing my questioning, my husband smiled awkwardly. Honey, I didn't mean that. Then what do you mean? Honey, I don't know whether to say something or not. If you don't know it, don't talk about it, lest everyone be embarrassed. My husband scratched his head embarrassedly. But you are the closest person to me. If you don't talk to me, who will you talk to? I looked surprised. Isn't the person closest to you your eldest brother? If you have anything to say, tell him. Don't bother me. At this time, Hyde and the mother-in-law, who was eavesdropping in the bedroom, rushed out and pushed her husband away. I can't understand anything. It's really useless. He said to me arrogantly, we have decided that the boy in your belly will be passed on to your eldest brother. Don't worry, the child will still be raised by your side. But children can only call you uncles and aunts, not mom and dad. Did you decide? Why don't you decide on the peace talks between Pakistan and Istani? No one put you on the table. Do you really treat yourself as a dish? No matter who is willing to call you uncle's father, I don't mind. My child, don't think about it. My husband pulled me with a dissatisfied face. Ming Ming, how did you talk to your mother? Mom is also for our good. Good? Well, you're a big-headed ghost. What's the matter? Is there a lack of father in your family? Are you going to die soon or what? Do you have to force your son to call someone else's father? Old Gong is still trying to explain. The eldest brother is so good to me that I will never have him in my life. We can still have children, but there is only one eldest brother. Besson, it's just a nominal succession to the eldest brother, and the child still lives with us. I really want to lift the Tianling cover of this product to see how many poops are in it. So what you mean is that I will raise the child I gave birth to, and then call you your brother's father? The most important thing is to help him retire? The husband nodded hurriedly. My wife is smart and has a strong understanding ability. I turned around and picked up the chicken soup that had just been served and splashed it on the billion. I understand your mother. Understand? Is it possible for people to arrange a gambler to be the father of their unborn children? No wonder your mother has been biased. I guess it's because you are too bad at writing. My husband let out a permeable scream and his mouth was still stiff. Where is it? The palms and backs of my hands are full of flesh. My mother loves me very much. The mother-in-law looked indifferent. She said something useless and turned her head back to the bedroom. I sat on the sofa and watched my husband's miserable situation. Haha, women are weak but mothers are strong. If anyone wants to bully my children, I'll ask them first before I try. 4. When I got home from work, I smelled the fragrance in the room before I entered the door. Pushing the door open, a man with a head and a rat's eye was sitting at the dining table. Oh, isn't this my Uncle Li DeBeo? Seeing me coming in, Li DeBeo stood up and looked at me squintingly. Has my eldest son been good recently? He also stretched out 2 greasy hands and wanted to touch my stomach. I had already dealt with it, so I took out the prepared chili water from my pocket and sprayed it on him. Li DeBeo covered his eyes and shouted, "Ah, Mom, come and save me. I'm going blind." You bitch, I won't beat you to death for a while. The mother-in-law quickly ran out of the kitchen and held Li DeBeo with a concerned face. Good baby, what's wrong with you? Don't scare Mom. Did this bitch do something to you? I smiled and said, I just did what I should have done. You're welcome. Don't thank me. Even if it's a broken sky, I'm right. A very reasonable self-defense. My mother-in-law turned her head and bumped into me crazily. Bully my good baby, see if I won't kill you, you little bitch. I quickly dodged, but the venue was too small and I still fell to the ground. My mother-in-law took the opportunity to come and beat me. Li DeBeo stopped his mother-in-law. Mom, my son is still in the belly of this bitch. Don't break it. The mother-in-law had to withdraw her raised hand sadly. You're lucky. Just wait. While my mother-in-law was busy helping Li DeBeo treat his eyes, I called my health consultant, and soon the ambulance came to the door. My mother-in-law helped Li DeBeo and wanted to get on the car, but was stopped by a beautiful nurse. Excuse me, madam, we are a private hospital and only serve our VIP members. If necessary, you can choose another hospital. The mother-in-law, who loved her son's heart, immediately exploded, and her mouth was full of dirty words. He threatened to complain about the nurse who hates poverty and loves the rich. Haha, she is not a mixed staff and I'm afraid she is a bird. I went straight over my mother-in-law and helped me into the car. The ambulance went away, leaving the mother-in-law, who was still cursing, and Li DeBeo, who was screaming, far behind. After a careful examination, it was confirmed that my body was fine. Smart people will never choose to hit stones with eggs. I decided to go back to my mother's house to raise the baby. Eating the loving breakfast carefully prepared for me by my mother. I was eating a loving breakfast carefully prepared for me by my mother when I suddenly heard a familiar howl. My mother-in-law came to the door with her husband and Li DeBeo. Standing at the door, he howled. My old man who died early, why don't you take me away? If you had been taken away early, who would have stood here to mourn for your 2 sons? I smiled. The girl's greatest confidence is to have a mother with super fighting power. My mother really didn't disappoint me. Instead, she splashed a basin of cold water. The mother-in-law was the closest to the door, and directly became an old hen in the soup. The affected husband wiped the water on his face. Mom, there is a sewer, why do you have to splash it outside? My mother replied coldly. When I heard a dog barking outside early in the morning, I did shanjai to help him wash his mouth. My husband's face turned blue and red, and he was a little at a loss. Mom, I'm here to pick up Meng Meng. My mother enlarged her voice and said, to take it back? Take it back so that the old devout woman can continue to learn. These people in your family eat people's food but don't do anything. They don't speak human words. They are a nest of humanoid animals. What a masterpiece of the creator. Mom, you said I'm okay. Why did you even count my mother? Don't call me my mother. I'm not immoral to give birth to a shrupted 3 like you. What's wrong with you? If I didn't hit you, it would be light. What have you done? Don't you have any comparison in your heart? The mother-in-law stared at a pair of triangular eyes. What are you talking about, mother? The door is a guest. I've come all the way. You don't welcome me in without saying anything. You still talk with a gun and a stick. Do the people in your city treat guests like this? You haven't heard of guests. First of all, you have to be a person to be a guest. My mother-in-law didn't want to, so she took out the posture of planting land in the countryside and forced it to come in. He also encouraged his two sons. Don't be afraid, even if something happens, there is still a mother to carry it. My mother gave way with a relaxed face. The mother-in-law looked proud. You know how powerful it is now, right? This is the confidence of giving birth to a son. You who only have daughters will not understand. The uncle and his husband also followed in majestically. Under the guidance of my husband, my mother-in-law wanted to force open my bedroom door and take me back. He threatened while pushing the door. Ming, don't be shameless. How dare you fight with me without even a mother's brother? If I don't give you some color, you still think I'm a vegetarian. I begged in an exaggerated tone while recording. I'm so scared. Please don't hurt my mother. I'll go with you. Can't you, Mom? The mother-in-law said proudly. It's good to know it's awesome. Why don't you get out of here quickly? I opened the door and saw Lee DeBeo standing in the living room, like a mouse entering a rice jar, touching left and right, looking for this valuable thing everywhere. Suddenly my eyes lit up. I saw the big gold bracelet my mother put on the coffee table. Lee DeBeo touched it and put it in his trouser pocket. The time has come and I clapped my hands. The door opened, and a group of strong men with big arms and round waists came out of another bedroom. He pressed his mother-in-law's 2 weak sons to the ground without much effort. The mother-in-law looked confused and couldn't figure out the situation. What are you doing? What are you doing? This is my family's home. Why don't you hurry out? After being pregnant with a dragon and phoenix, my husband and mother-in-law want to pass the son to my husband and his brother. 39103-inch. My mother kindly explained. Although I only have one daughter, I have 8 nephews. Do you envy? If you want to talk about my sisters-in-law, it's really capable. The number of sons is good in quality. It's also a son. Why is the gap between people so big? I said that your son looks like a little chicken. Did you steal all the child's food because he was greedy? The uncle and husband who used to be arrogant are now so cowardly that they can't be cowardly anymore. Haha, my mother is the only daughter of their generation and so am I. I have 8 brothers. Didn't my mother-in-law say that there is no one in my mother's family? Joke, today we must let them know a few eyes of Prince Ma. My mother-in-law can't fight when she is old. My uncle and Lao Gong-in-law are young and strong, so they resist beating. The camera at the door clearly recorded that they broke in. After coming in, he also engaged in sabotage and theft of finances. Coincidentally, it happened to bump into our family party. In the face of sneaky illegal invaders, my brother's legitimate defense is reasonable, right? My husband and uncle are very good brothers and sisters. So cool. Soon, he was greeted by his brothers and gained 2 rounds of weight, and his whole body was swollen and shiny. Her mother-in-law shouted to call the police, and her brothers pulled her to the police station for evaluation. The mother-in-law knew that she was at a loss and took the 2 chicks back. 5. After listening to my coquettish operation of my mother-in-law's family, everyone in the family supported me to take care of my parents and children, divorce and leave. But I think so. Such a brainless husband really can't have it. I consulted a professional lawyer. The wedding room and the wedding car are all personal property given to me by my parents, and it has nothing to do with my husband. There was not much savings after marriage, and the husband's income was taken away by his mother-in-law in various names before. At that time, I didn't take it back as a matter of opening one eye and closing one glasses. I didn't expect to win up the appetite of these people. Don't say you want money, you also want people. That I decisively filed for divorce in the court. My husband called me after receiving the summons. As soon as he came up, he tried to morally kidnap me. Ming, you are so cruel. How can a husband and wife have an overnight feud? Have you forgotten our relationship for so many years? I was beaten like this by my brothers and didn't say anything. Mom pushed you gently, and you were unforgiving. Oh, this bad pen's brain is more completely bad. I didn't bother to talk nonsense with him, so I just hung up and blacked him up. On this day, I was discussing with my parents what the baby's name will be in the future. There was a noise downstairs. I looked out of the window. Oh, it's quite fun. My mother-in-law took the lead with a group of middle-aged women, dressed uniformly, and pulled several banners to line up in my house building. By the way, knock and knock. The banner is full of complaints against me. Deceive feelings, water-based poplar. If you don't respect the elders, the sky will strike you. The mother-in-law held a loudspeaker in her hand and complained to the onlookers with tears in her eyes. My daughter-in-law, who has worked hard all my life and exhausted her family money, has been about to divorce in less than 2 years. What a cruel heart. Not to mention playing with my son's feelings, he also let my son get out of the house. The most poisonous woman's heart, my poor grandson and granddaughter, the family was broken before they were born. I silently praised my mother-in-law's ability to turn black and white upside down. The husband standing next to him looked sad, holding a handful of withered roses in his hand, and shouted at me. Meng Meng, go home. No matter what you do, I don't blame me. Let's let go of the past and live a good life. As expected, bamboo can't produce good bamboo shoots. My husband's black and white kung fu is really passed down. I opened the window and released the drone. The drone stopped steadily over the melon-eating crowd, playing the conspiracy of the mother-in-law and husband that day. The boy in the dragon and phoenix womb must be passed on to your eldest brother. As long as someone gives you a pension, I will die. The child still follows you, but you can't call mom and dad. This is like poking a hornet's nest, not to mention the melon-eating masses. The extras recruited by the mother-in-law can't be accepted. A very temperamental aunt threw the banner in her hand directly on her mother-in-law's face. Well, you old man who doesn't want billion, you pretend to be strange and pitiful. I've lived for so many years, and I've never seen someone who doesn't want billion like you. The other extras also gave up one after another. A strong wind blew, and the abandoned banners flew up and wrapped around their mother-in-law. She pushed it away angrily and tried to save it. Don't be tricked by this little bitch. This recording is not true. An energetic old man shook his head. Marrying a wife is not virtuous to destroy 3 generations. With you, the family is not far away. I opened the window and released the parrot that I have carefully raised for many years. The angry mother-in-law wanted to jump up and grab the drone, but fell heavily to the ground. The audience laughed loudly. The mother and son had to leave the scene with their faces covered. Maybe I felt the pleasure in my heart, and the baby in my belly kicked me. I touched my stomach and meditated. Don't worry, babies. Don't want to hurt you with your mother. Point 6. As the month grows, in order to have a good life, I will take a walk downstairs after dinner every day. I don't know if it's the influence of progesterone, but I feel that someone has been following me secretly these days. But if you think about it carefully, it's unlikely. The community is full of old residents, which is very safe. My mother, who was supposed to accompany me for a walk that day, was not feeling well, and my father happened to be on a business trip again. After dinner, I went downstairs for a walk by myself. I'm right enjoying the newly bloomed flowers with great interest. I suddenly felt that someone was approaching behind me. I wanted to dodge, but it was too late. One hand covered my mouth and nose fiercely. Before I could struggle, my eyes went black and I fainted. When I opened my eyes again, I found that it was dark around me, accompanied by a bad smell. I tried to get up, only to find that I was tied up by a rope, and a piece of rag with a strange smell was stuffed in my mouth. So I was kidnapped? It's really strange. What's the use of kidnapping me as a pregnant woman? This is a man who pushed open the door. I squinted my eyes and looked out, and it was my mother-in-law who came in. Fuck, this birdman is so crazy. Kidnapped me. My mother-in-law looked proud and came up and slapped me in the face. Little bitch, you finally fell into my hands, right? If you don't want to toast, you will be punished. Let's see how I greet you today. While talking, he kicked me several times. I trembled with pain. The eldest uncle followed him with an obscene face and pulled his mother-in-law. Don't hit her, it's broken, I should be heartbroken. Obviously, the early pregnancy reaction has long passed, but I feel sick. The mother-in-law smiled proudly. If it weren't for my mother's cleverness, how could you get such a beautiful daughter-in-law? I thundered in an instant. It's enough for me to pass on my son to my uncle. How can they still have this kind of mind? The degree of despicability and shamelessness has broken through the limits of human beings. Brother Debo touched my face obscenely. The women in the city are different. They look at how slippery their little faces. When you married Li'er, I fell in love with you at first sight. If it hadn't been for Li'er's tight watch, I would have fallen in love with you long ago. I've been thinking about you for so long, and you finally fell into my hands today. I also want to try what it's like to be a woman in the city. I shook my head crazily. The uncle tore off the rag in my mouth and said, "Don't worry, I'll take it down for you, or the little beauty's little mouth won't smell good for a while." I took the opportunity to spit on his face. The uncle wiped the saliva on his face with a lewd smile and put it to his mouth. The little beauty's saliva is also fragrant. Li'er's little white face is not manly at all. Only when you follow me can you know how good a man is. As he said, he was about to come forward and move his hands and feet. The mother-in-law pulled the uncle and said, "Be careful of the baby in your belly." Lida shook off his mother-in-law's hand impatiently. "You know, child, this child is not my kind." The mother-in-law smiled flatteringly. "It's still a boy anyway. Keep it first and then sell him when you have your own." I was reluctant to question. "Does Li'er know that you do this?" The eldest uncle laughed and said, "That evil pen is still looking for you all over the city. He is stupid in reading and has no brain at all. He didn't expect to kill him. It's our seamless plan. I'm also curious about how the mother and son tied me up here without knowing it." Lida pointed to his head proudly. "It's not my brother, I'm smart. The old doorman in your community thought that his mother liked him and was attentive all day long. It's not all over. We can go in and out of your community casually, pretend to collect scraps, and put you in a tricycle and pull you back. My hanging heart let go. These two fools showed such obvious flaws that the police would soon come to rescue me. A burst of footsteps came from outside the door, and I was overjoyed. The policeman came to save me so soon. The person who came pushed the door open, and what came in was indeed the husband's evil pen. Lier didn't seem to see me in embarrassment. He said eagerly to his mother-in-law, "Mom, you are really confused. You have said the long-term plan. What are you in a hurry? It's time to stab Losey. The police will come to your door soon." The uncle was bragging, but he was interrupted and looked unhappy. "You don't know, I'm obviously doing it. The words of the eldest son are the edict." The mother-in-law slapped her husband with a backhand. "You don't know what? When will you succeed with your cowardly appearance of fear of wolves and tigers?" The husband, whose face was crooked, then glanced at me. "Meng, your temper is really going to change. How many times have I persuaded you? Give your son to the eldest brother well, and you should take care of the child, and you won't lose money. Why are you so disobedient? In this situation, everyone is very passive." I closed my eyes and didn't want to talk nonsense with the bad pen in front of me. When my husband saw that I ignored him, he began to persuade his mother-in-law again. "Mom, as long as you give up now, it's a suspension of the crime. Otherwise, you really can't avoid it." The mother-in-law looked cruel. "You don't know anything. It's a ghost gate for a woman to give birth to a child." Meng volunteered to follow me back to her hometown to give birth, but she lost her life because her fate was difficult to give birth. My mother-in-law's words directly sentenced me to death. The husband looked puzzled. But Meng is obviously not the due date. The mother-in-law pushed her husband away. "Get out of here and don't make trouble here." After saying that, he took his uncle out to work. My husband sat next to me and chatted endlessly. "Meng, for the sake of our many years of relationship, I ask you for something." Seeing that I ignored him, my husband still said to himself, "It's really hard for my mother to pull me up alone. Big brother is also very good to me. I can't feel sorry for them. Even if they are a little too much this time. Can you forgive them for my face and explain to the police that you came to your hometown voluntarily? I couldn't stand it anymore. Get out of here and talk to me when you're clean up your brain." My husband is still trying to persuade me. Meng, how much more will you suffer to change your temper? Fart. Is it because of my temper that I have fallen to this point? No, it's because I'm blind and don't know people. I'm looking for a beast like you. My husband turned his head to leave, but I stopped him. "I broke up with you today and returned the wedding ring to me. If you don't give it back to me, I will bite my tongue and kill myself, 1 corpse and 3 lives. At that time, your good mother and good brother will be sentenced more severely." My husband stopped, took off the ring and put it in front of me. My mother-in-law quickly brought a bowl of black stuff and handed it to my mouth. I tried my best to avoid it. My mother-in-law called my husband and my uncle to press me down and force me into it. My mother-in-law told me proudly, "This is a good thing, my ancestral provoque." That I see. My mother-in-law must be worried that the police will come to expose the crime. The medicine was very effective, and my stomach began to hurt faintly, and I was sweating profusely. When my mother-in-law saw that I was in labor pain, she put down her guard, and the commander's husband loosened the rope. I endured the severe pain and grabbed the ring tightly in my hand while people were not. Lier hesitated. "Mom, are you going to give birth at home like this?" The uncle reprimanded dissatisfiedly. "Do you have something wrong with your brain? Send her to the hospital and wait, and let her call the police to arrest us." The old man stepped aside and didn't say anything. This man has a little conscience but not much. With severe pain, I gave birth to a daughter and a son, a 7-month-old child like a kitten. I cried weakly, and tears slipped down the corners of my eyes. I'm not a good mother. I didn't protect my child well. The mother-in-law picked up her son with a happy face and put him in the swaddling that had been prepared for a long time. Finally, I'm looking forward to Grandma's golden grandson. My poor daughter is bare and lying on the ground and no one cares about her. My daughter's crying voice became quieter and quieter. I begged in a low voice, "Please pick up the child, she will freeze to death." The mother-in-law glanced at her daughter with dissatisfaction. "I won't freeze to death for a while. Originally, production had exhausted my strength, and now I have endless courage." I broke the ring in my hand and pressed the button while my mother-in-law was not doing my best. It was dark in front of my eyes and I fainted. 7. Looking at the snow-white room in front of me, I was a little in a trance. Am I dead? By the way, where's my poor child? I wanted to get up but I had no strength. While struggling, he knocked over the water cup at the head of the bed. Mom's familiar voice came in. My good boy, you are awake." I endured the sharp pain in my throat and asked, "Mom, where are the children?" My mother took my hand and said, "Good baby, don't worry. The children are all fine. Now they are in the newborn monitoring room. You will see them in a few days." Seeing that I was worried, my mother also took out her mobile phone and showed me the photos of the children. I was relieved that I was very calm. My mother touched my hair with a scared face. I thought I was about to lose you. Yes, I didn't expect to come back alive. When I was blind before, I fell in love with my husband, and my eyes and heart were full of him. Even the wedding ring was carefully designed by me. Because my husband loves outdoor sports, I have a special idea. A hidden SOS help system is installed in the ring. At the critical moment, as long as you break the ring and press the button, you can send a distress signal. So I desperately angered my husband to get the ring back. But because I just started giving birth, I can't open the ring. It was my daughter's increasingly faint cry that suddenly gave me strength and finally sent a signal for help. The police arrived in time to save me and the children. My mother-in-law, uncle and husband were all arrested. My body recovered slightly, and as a victim, I cooperated with the police to make a transcript. During the interrogation, the mother-in-law bit her to death. Everything was conspired with her husband, and it had nothing to do with Uncle You. I smiled. How sad would the husband of the detention center be if he knew the truth? Although the mother-in-law did not cooperate with her mother-in-law, as soon as he went in, he poured beans into a bamboo tube and explained it cleanly. In the end, the mother-in-law was sentenced to 15 years in prison for kidnapping, and Lee DeBeo was sentenced to 8 years in prison as an accomplice. My husband was sentenced to 5 years in prison for the crime of sheltering. My husband was on a hunger strike in prison and did not cooperate with the transformation, and asked to see me. I just recovered almost, so I wanted to hear what else he had to do. Lee cried aggrievedly when he saw me. Honey, I was wrong. Now I know who is the person in the world who loves me the most. I'm sorry to you. I will definitely reform you well, treat you and the children well, and make up for my mistakes. I was so happy. No, you're wrong. Your mother and your brother are your real family. My children and I have nothing to do with you. Didn't you say that the eldest brother is like a father all day long? It just so happens that your eldest brother has no descendants. In the future, you can change your name to his father. Your family of 3 lives a happy life together. Don't come out and harm others. By the way, your mother is more likely to collude with you, and your eldest brother didn't know about it. I turned my head and walked out, and behind me came my husband's heartbreaking shouts and the prison guard scolding. Haha, I did it. Although the children were born prematurely, they were very strong after careful treatment and recuperation. I named them Ping Ping and Unen. After experiencing life and death, I think the most important thing in the world is peace and health. The children are growing up day by day, and sometimes they ask my father where he has gone. I calmly told them that their father had already gone to a place far, far away and would never see each other again. I took my parents and children to settle in a city facing the sea and blooming in spring. Mom, come and play with us. I greeted him with a smile. They are my whole world.